Everybody drinks coffee. Coffee is the most socially acceptable addiction that we have, and any addiction is really a symptom of something underneath that we normally don't really want to look at. So I'm going to look at it. Hello, I'm Lewis, and I make videos on codependency, attachment theory, and all sorts of personal development topics. If that sounds like something you're interested in, then please hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. If you ask people why they drink coffee, pretty much everyone's going to give the same answer. I need energy to stay awake. And why do people need to stay awake? Well, usually it's for work. And what I'm going to do in this video is really look down underneath the different symptoms of coffee and get right to the bottom of it. And the first layer really under what many people see as quite a socially acceptable addiction also is to some degree an addiction to work, or at the very least, an addiction to being busy. Why are we addicted to being busy? Well, we need to work. Everybody has to work. We all need money to survive. It's got its benefits. It can be quite rewarding also to go to work, see your colleagues, have a real impact on the world, and feel like you're growing as a person. The issue comes in, and this is, I think, really started to be the case in the last 5, 10, 20 years, where work itself isn't enough to support you. So just one job or just one income, and that certainly hasn't been the case since, women entered the workforce in the 1940s and 50s properly. Having an income isn't enough to survive, and so you'll see many people have started things like side hustles or they're working second jobs. And I'm just going to take the social ramifications and the comments on that and put them over there. I'm going to cover that in another video because I think it's very, very important. Today I want to focus on the mental health aspect of that and what that really reveals about our society's mental health. So if you need to overwork, you need to be drinking more coffee to stay awake, and you're staying awake because you've got so many things to do. And our society basically is just push, 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 push. It is constant. And I think that really brings us to the third layer of this, which is looking underneath coffee addiction to work addiction or busyness addiction to an avoidance of not being busy. Because when you stop and you slow down and maybe you're tired, things start bubbling up. And those things bubble up are not things that our society wants to look at. And so it eventually becomes this cycle of I have to work, I have to be busy to keep myself alive, to afford to stay alive. I need to rely on substances like coffee to give me the energy to do that. And the moment that I start feeling tired or I start feeling sleepy or I start to pause, I feel everything that I haven't been feeling for the past however long. And I need to immediately subdue that. Another coffee, another work task. I'm going to go and do this, that, or the other to keep myself occupied. Now, I suffered from this for a while. At university, I was an absolute workaholic. You think, oh, university, I'll get good boundaries, I'll be able to have fun and go out and do this. I spent a lot of my time up at 3 or 4 a.m. trying to hand in an essay for the next day. Partly because the schedule was very demanding, but also because I just didn't look after myself. And the times when I wasn't working, I was trying to distract myself in other ways. And there's a lot of more other socially acceptable distractions, Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, anything social media-y. Food is a good one. I love some food as a distraction. But when you really look at these things, they're preventing us from going inside and seeing what really needs to come up. And I think this is really when we get to the tricky part of it. As a society, we have centuries of trauma passed down from generation to generation. And it has that subtle impact on, or sometimes not a very subtle impact, but it's always having an impact on the next generation who then carries it along if those in the previous generation hadn't worked it out by the time that they had children, which most people just don't. But how could they? Because they're so busy. And so we basically get stuck in this cycle. We don't want to or can't look at the things that would really change our society. All those unexpressed and repressed feelings and emotions and horrible things that have happened. And so we push that all down and we put a veneer on top of it of work or of distraction or of simply, numbing yourself by drinking 3 coffees a day to stay awake. Nothing will change, and we look around and wonder why society's mental health seems to have just gotten so much worse in the past decade or so. And there have been a lot of factors. COVID didn't help. But I think the main thing really is that younger people are becoming more aware of what we're not talking about and of what we've pushed down as a society, and it's starting to come up and it's starting to come out, and it's going to take all sorts of forms, and some of them are pretty hard to handle, but it's something that we're going to need to go through as a society if we want to have any chance really of growing and continuing and becoming healthier. And on a societal level, I can't remember who the quote, it might have been Gandhi, said something like, if you want to change the world, start with yourself. And, it is a noble goal to want to heal the traumas of society. But it's very hard to do that if you haven't healed your own traumas, at least started that journey and taken some really big steps. And I think that at an individual level is where there's really that opportunity. If you're feeling stuck in this really difficult society and difficult world to live in, you can start with yourself. And there's an infinite amount of work you can do on yourself. Trust me, I'm doing it right now. And you'll notice, and I've been noticing this, the more work you can do on yourself and the more you can improve your mental health, it sort of has this radiating effect out into your life. Because when you change, others have to change the way that they relate to you. And so if you've noticed that you have a work addiction or a coffee addiction or any other sort of subtle, socially acceptable addiction that's keeping your feelings pushed down, that's okay. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing actually wrong with that. I don't have any issue with people drinking coffee. Just notice how it's keeping you distracted from something. And it might be a really good reason that it's doing that, because you may well not be ready to face whatever that is, and you may also just need it to get through the workday. But if you're really serious about trying to look at your traumas and to heal and to improve your mental health, then ultimately, if you're interested, start helping wider society. Just notice the ways in which you subtly push your emotions away and remain a bit detached from some of the more difficult parts of yourself. It's not easy, this work. And I think that, distraction and comfort has its place, and it's very important, especially if you open up something that's far too big for you to deal with right in that moment. But I feel like if we as a society could just gently become more aware of the ways that we do numb ourselves and stop anything from coming up, then perhaps, even on an individual level, if we can do this, then perhaps there's a chance that we can really start healing and growing and creating a much more nurturing society that really values that place of processing and healing.